Running events is extremely fun. At least like if you're a certain type of person. That's where I get a lot of my own energy for yeah, making games and going out and yeah, producing board games because they're a very interpersonal thing. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. So in terms of running events, there's the planning, there's the figuring out what to take to an event, and then also like what to do at the actual event. So yeah, planning, what to take, what to do. So in terms of planning, first you have to think about like where you want to run it and what the point of the game event is. So if it's like a celebration or a launch, then something sort of more like a cafe or like a bar or something is probably more appropriate because people can come, they can eat, and you can just have a good time and sort of present things and say thank you to everyone. If it is a playtest event, then cafes are really good. I wouldn't do it in a bar because it's not sort of the right vibe necessarily, but it depends on the bar you go to. And you can also do them in more official spaces, like if you work at a university, you can book one of the rooms and do it in there. I would generally recommend trying to make it a sort of relaxed experience in terms of a game test and provide some snacks or something like that because that'll encourage people to have a good time and also to come back. Events, and if your event is sort of like a collaboration with someone, then definitely you can do ones where you plan with another organization or another game designer or something to or a retailer to go along and set up and have a good time playing everyone's games. That's really good. And finally, you can do ones that are about sales. So that's like conventions or markets and things like that. And so those are going to be a lot more geared towards talking to people, presenting a product, and then having a lot of signage and things like that. So what should you take to an event? So I would recommend having a focused product for the event that you're doing. So if you have just one game, then that's great. You know what you're going to be taking. Depending on the context, so for a celebration and for a game test, I wouldn't necessarily take things to sell because it's not really the point, and at least in my experience, it's not really what happens at those kind of events because people are just there to like help you out in other ways, so or to celebrate having helped out and stuff like that. And then, but if you're going to a retailer, check with them first if it's okay for you to have stuff on the table for people to pick up, or alternatively, say you can ask them if they want to buy some stock to sell of the stuff that you're going to be demoing and showing off, or even have some copies on consignment at the counter at the time. That can be a good way to sort of get that idea out there that people might want to pick this up from the retailer if they had them. And finally, with conventions, just take everything. Just like build piles and stacks and just have it all over the place. Even if you only have like one thing to sell, like that's awesome. Like people love seeing piles of stuff. Because if there's only like one copy of something on a table, they might be like, oh, like I don't want to like mess with this person having things to sell. Like it's sort of, obviously you want to sell it, but again, yeah, like that's an interesting effect. But if there's like stacks of things, then people are like, oh cool, maybe I'll have a look and pick this up, and there's lots of them, and that's great. And then in terms of so you want to bring signage, you want to bring food and water is definitely one that I've forgotten in the past and wish I hadn't. And also so signage. So you'll generally have like a table with like a tablecloth. You might have to bring that as well. It's good to have a couple of like A2 or A1 signs up front, just being like, here's our brand, here's the product that we're demoing, and then you may have a space up behind you where you can put little posters and things like that, but not necessarily necessary. And then in terms of running these events, so I would definitely do a bit of there's like a mingle period at the start, so this is not conventions or markets, so people have come specifically to like hang out and try or see a game or celebrate a game. Have a mingle session, and then have some kind of like welcome everybody, we're here to test or to celebrate or to launch or to something. Thank you all for coming. please, and then some kind of like action thing, like what do you want them to do, whether it's like please back us, or like please you know, find a table and get to playing and stuff like that. And then once you do that, sort of facilitate that. So go around and say to people like, oh, hey, like, how did you go looking at Kickstarter? Like, were you able to find the game on there? Or like, you can say to someone else, like, do you know which game you'd like to play? Or do you need a hand finding a group of people to play that thing? And conventions are just a completely different beast, because it'll be good to put out or like spread out the game in front of you, and there's a fine balance between like confidently reaching out to passers-by and also like harassing people to buy your game. So in the materials for this node, there'll be sort of a few little scripts that you can use, obviously tailor them towards your own game, but people generally will enjoy a bit of banter, and actually the more that you don't talk about a game to someone, the more likely they will be to like you and then ask you about the game that you're selling. So yeah, it's just one of those funny things. At least at this scale, you know, if you have a really well-known brand and recognized kind of game, then yeah, people will come and just be like, hey, yeah, I'll grab a copy of this. But we're talking more about the sort of more like indie kind of personal level of the business here. Running other events, and it's also, I would recommend dressing up because especially with games, like where possible, because with games, like, people are there because they want to have fun, and like if it is educational or scientifically based, you know, it shows that that's still kind of the focus. There is somewhat of a stigma in terms of educational games that they often focus on the like the knowledge and like the teaching and stuff, which is great, but when people pick up a game, they would like it to be entertaining. And so if you can just present that, yeah, it sort of heightens the chance that the sort of the person that you're wanting to attract, someone who's into games and into that kind of thing, into fun and buying fun stuff, will engage with you. So those are my just general advice for events and running events. Please leave any questions or suggestions or feedback in the comments, and yeah, as ever, good luck.